is Saturday 16th of May, time for this weekend's brief video, and I've just got back from London, Hyde Park, where, believe it or not, people are protesting against the UK lockdown in response to the coronavirus pandemic. People are actually taking it to the streets to make their feelings known. There have been a bunch of these all around the UK today, evidently, in different towns and cities, all organised by the UK Freedom Movement, it seems. Don't know very much about that group. But either way, I took a small amount of footage at the London event a short while ago, so let's take a look at this and I'll talk some more off the back of it. It's just after midday, there's a gathering of maybe 100 people or so here. So far the police are mingling in with the crowd, seems to be having a few conversations. No doubt the mainstream media will fail to cover this event unless something kicks off by way of some provocateurs ensuring that something happens. That's the only circumstances in which you can expect to hear of this on the mainstream news. It is about time that people in the UK started standing up and expressing how they feel about the lockdown situation. Good to see it happening in this country at last.
We are all free people in this country, and we need to claim our freedom from the dictator Boris Johnson. And not just in this country, my friend, all around the world. We need to follow our American cousins who are leading the world.
So that's what I saw when I was at the London event earlier today. It's still going on as I record this, so how it will pan out by the end of the day, I don't know yet. I have checked online to see if there were any mainstream reports on the event as soon as I got in, and there are a couple. The Express has steamed in there. It put up a hit piece describing the gathering as idiotic, so really professional, mature journalism there, you know. They don't think to question why people have felt to take it to the streets and make these statements and make their presence felt. They just decry the whole thing as idiotic because it goes against the official line, and we can't have that, can we? Very heavy police presence down there. I saw banks of vans and cars parked around the perimeter of the park. Many coppers standing in lines in military-like arrangements as if they were just waiting for something to kick off. I would say there were as many cops down there as there were protesters. They're obviously very short on work at the moment. They don't have a lot to do, and so they could afford to deploy many of them down at Hyde Park today. It wouldn't surprise me if there were a couple of provocateurs put into the crowd to try and whip things up and get things going a bit so that they would have an excuse to wade in and arrest some people, because that's the way these things usually go off. According to the reports I've seen, 2 people were arrested. So the guy you saw in the video with the banner protesting freedom, not fear, was led away in handcuffs, unfortunately, screaming that he does not consent to his arrest. Also, Piers Corbyn was in attendance, the brother of Jeremy Corbyn. He's been doing some demos down in Glastonbury recently, and he was in attendance at Hyde Park today. And according to the mainstream reports that I've read, he got arrested and led off in handcuffs after refusing to move when the police tried to disperse things and refusing to give them his name. But seemingly everyone knew who he was anyway. So some predictable outcomes there. In terms of how the rest of the day will pan out, I don't know yet. I'll also try and get some information on the other gatherings in different towns and cities around the UK, which were also evidently arranged by the UK Freedom Movement. It was good, it was refreshing, it was reassuring for me to see some people, at least, taking it to the streets and making their statements known. And people can argue all day, and they will, about the effectiveness or otherwise of these types of protest. And sure, no legislation is going to get changed off the back of a few people gathering to say that they do not consent. But the point of these link-ups is that they send a very clear statement, a very clear message to anyone that's looking on, that there are some of us that don't take kindly to having our natural rights and freedoms taken away based on provable lies and deceptions. There are some of us that don't buy the bullshit. There are some of us that don't believe anything the government or the BBC tell us because they have a track record of lying every time they open their mouths. There are some of us who are capable of our own critical thought and doing our own research, and we've discovered that this whole coronavirus pandemic is a monumental scam on so many levels, designed as a smokescreen and as a justification for all kinds of ulterior motives that we're seeing put into place now. The vast majority of the public still seemingly have not twigged. They don't realise that that's what this whole thing is all about. So those of us that do still have a lot of work in trying to win over the hearts and the minds and the souls of many people to show them how we're all being taken for a ride on this one. But there have been protests in America, there have been protests all over Europe, and to be honest, these overseas protesters have been putting British people to shame. So at least we had some show of public discontent today, and it would have sent a very clear message to anyone that was looking on. So I think the event today did have some value. As I record this, it is a day after I recorded an epic podcast of almost 3 hours, an interview with the researcher known as Charlie Freak, who many of you will know from the Freak Sense TV channel on YouTube, and his wife Colleen. So we spoke last night about different aspects of what's going on at the moment and different aspects of what we can expect to see in the coming weeks and months. And all of this is hinged around what is known as the Q plan. And I know many people are going to be rolling their eyes, and their eyes are going to be glazing over at the mention of the Q narrative. I felt that same way as well about the whole thing, because I've heard these different stories of groups that are infiltrating the deep state and arresting these elite types and cleaning everything up, and all we've got to do is sit back and wait for things to get better. I've never placed any stock in these narratives before because there's never been any evidence or proof to demonstrate that there's any validity to them. But having spoken to Charlie and Colleen last night and having listened to everything they've got to say about it, I'm starting to change my view about what may be going on in the background right now and what may come to pass in the coming weeks and months. So I would urge anyone who has been following this whole situation with any great interest from an alternative perspective to what you get to hear about from the mainstream to give this interview a listen. I've still to edit it as I record this. I'm anticipating it being live on my YouTube channel from Sunday morning. That's Sunday the 17th of May. I'll spend the rest of today editing it together. But it is a landmark interview. It's got mind-blowing information in it. Some of it is harrowing, some of it is distressing, but some of it is hopeful and optimistic, and it's information that you won't have heard from any other quarters. I think there was a lot of value to me recording this show, and I look forward to giving people an opportunity to hear what we discussed. So do check back for that. That's the latest episode in my Good Vibrations podcast series with Charlie Freak and Colleen, and that will be on my YouTube and my Facebook and my main website, markdevlin.co.uk, from tomorrow, Sunday. That's pretty much all I wanted to say today. I just want to recap that it was very invigorating for me to see a reasonable amount of people coming out on the streets in London today, in Hyde Park, and letting it be known that we can see through what's being done here. And not all of us have fallen for this Tavistock mind control and mind game manipulation. I'll leave it there. Comments will be open below for anyone that wants to say anything about it, and I'll catch you all again soon. Thanks for watching.